Welcome to the Play Chess Not Checkers podcast, where eye care goes to meet their heroes and learn how they turn a passion for eyes into a business of success. All right, welcome everybody. I am honored to be joined by my friend. We got to hang out in Ohio a few weeks ago, and I said, you know what? I got to get him on the podcast. Dr. Chris Smiley, how are you doing?
Hey, Adam, it's good to see you. It's great to be here. Long time no see. Got to welcome you in Columbus, Ohio as part of the NOA. It was a wonderful event. Great family, great support, and great love for each other.
Yeah. It was great. It was a great event. It was good weather in Ohio. It wasn't any snow. You know, it was actually a good time. I was like, okay, this is cool. I can come back here. I can have a good time.
Yeah, but it's a good place.
Because we got to hang out and we got to know each other, I want to introduce you to my audience that some people don't know you. Some people don't know the backstory. So tell me your origin story. Tell me who you were before you were Chris, the fame, all the other stuff. You know, you go through the conferences, Chris, they start screaming, you know, as you walk down the hallways. Before that, tell me about your origin story. Where did you grow up? Give me a little backstory.
Yeah, I grew up in Central Ohio. My father doesn't have a college degree. My mom was a nurse. And so some sort of healthcare thing seemed really interesting to me. And of course, like many of us in the optometry family, the eyes were a big part of growing up. Contact lenses made a great difference for me. And so thus the quest to become an eye doctor. What I did was I started working for my childhood eye doctor. I filed files. Then his lab tech quit and I started cutting lenses. Lo and behold, through a lot of rigor, I got in optometry school and he promised me a career or a job with him. And I'm sure many of the audience can really share that life's about a lot of ups and downs and disappointments. And then one day, actually before our eyeball, our third year, he dropped the bomb on me that he just wants to stay solo. And so everything I worked for, to be a private practitioner, to be an optometrist, to work for somebody that was like a father figure to me, was just crushed. And I was devastated. I had a lot of fun at that eyeball. Took some time to recover mentally from, where my career should go from here.
Okay. All right. That I see. And this is where, me, when I was a student or when I just graduated, I see the fame. I see the doc with all the offices, right? I see the end. I don't get to see the before. And then when you feel like you're the only one that went through something, it's very difficult because you're comparing your life or you're comparing your current situation to somebody's final input, right? Like you're seeing the end and you're at the beginning and you're like, oh, I'm never going to get, not knowing that person went through things as well.
That's it.
I love to hear that. Now, tell me some of your hobbies, not eye care related. What do you do for fun? How do you relax? What do you do if it's not to do with the office? What is what's your vice? What's your relaxation? What do you do?
Oh man, it's just that the GPLI hosts a residency weekend, and I was just there last night, and they asked, they asked all the residents, what do they do? And this is a problem. We need to develop better hobbies in our profession because these poor students have been so in the books for so long that they kind of lost their passion, whether it was running, fencing, whatever it may be. So it's a critical part of what we do is try to find things to do. Obviously, I live on a lake. And I like to just go out on a boat, whether it's just sitting on a boat or throwing a fishing pole. And Adam, you and I know cars. We're car fanatics, man. We like those Hot Wheels. And so just even scrolling some auction blogs or just looking is just so mentally relaxing for me, especially like in a late evening when there's nothing else to do.
Nice. So the lake, is it the water? Is it the air on the lake? Because you said the fishing or without the fishing. So, because I used to fish, but I didn't fish. I fished on a lake, but it was from the shore. But that was relaxing to me. I think the challenge of catching the fish when I was younger, I was the only child. So that was an activity I didn't need to do with another person. Playing football, you need to throw it to a person. I was the only child. There was nobody to throw to. But fishing, I could do by myself.
Yep.
But like, what is the part? Because you said without the fishing rod, you'd go on the lake. Is it just hanging out? What about the lake is relaxing?
Oh man, it's just like watching the sunset, just being out in the water, being away from folks. I know we have people in front of our face all the time, and
Hmm.
you'll see Adam Ramsey, you'll see Chris Smiley at conferences. That's the extrovert that's having a good time. But truthfully, I have to have that time to unplug and time to yourself, time for thought, time for thinking.
Okay, good, good, good. I like it. Okay, both. All right, got it. Um, Now tell me about your experience at Miami University, not University of Miami. So I looked you up. I was like, oh, he went to UM. He's like, no, 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 Miami University. How was your experience going to school there? How was that start for you?
You know, it's funny. I wanted to go to Duke or Carolina Chapel Hill. So just again, more devastation. I didn't get into either.
Okay.
I did get into Chapel Hill like with 1 year deferred, but I'm like, I'm not going to defer and change. So Miami was my last choice. It was an awesome school, Miami, Ohio. It's a great business school, great education school. But what I didn't really connect, and this is maybe something if you've got undergraduate student listeners in your audience, you got to really connect the college that you select with where you want to go, because it was a very heavy pre-med weed out school. The test averages were like 30%. And I was like, oh man, I do know I want to go to healthcare. I took AP classes in high school. I'm taking these for the EZA, and I am struggling hard here.
Hmm.
Um, so when I figured out optometry, I kind of did some looking, and in optometry, I kind of dialed in. I like that, and I'm like, holy smokes, Ohio State, they got one of the top optometry schools in the U.S. Let's transfer. So I did transfer after a year.
So you started off at Miami University, and then you went to Ohio State.
Yeah, for
After
undergrad.
that, was
Yeah,
was are those schools close to each other?
they're about 2 hours away.
About two
Yeah, so
hours
it
away.
wasn't too
Okay.
far. Yeah,
So then you transferred, and then you went to Ohio State for optometry school as well.
correct,
So was
correct.
there like a pathway that if you went there as undergrad, because that's one of the few schools that has an undergrad and an optometry school. Like,
Yep.
I don't. Is there another one that has an undergrad and optometry school? I'm trying to think who else would have that direct
I
pathway.
wonder if does Berkeley might have one. I would
Maybe.
think.
Yeah. There's a
Um,
couple out of there. They're under five of them.
yeah.
So was it like where if you went there for undergrad, it was like you were able to select, and if you got the grades, you could go up, or how did it work transferring from
You
there?
know, I'll tell you, it was just as competitive, if not more. You had the advantage of being at Ohio State, and you could network with the folks at the college through the pre-optometry club a little more readily.
Hmm.
But it was just as competitive. So the cool thing that I learned about it being at Ohio State is you can get an optometry school after 3 years. And so I had enough credits after 2 years of undergrad. I applied to optometry school. I got waitlisted, and then I reapplied, and they didn't interview me, but they said I was waitlisted again. And I ended up getting in the night before classes started because somebody didn't show up.
They
So
didn't show
I,
up.
I got a phone call. I was getting ready to start my 4th year of undergrad, and I got a phone call the night before saying, "Hey, you're in." So it was a big curveball.
Already right there. I mean, that is a, no, no, but that is a benefit because if you weren't there and you were in California and you had to fly there, that
Yeah,
does they go through the list and they're like, hey, he was on the border, but you know what? He's perfect right now. This is the guy. You know, so
so
that's good.
I showed up to classes, and I knew a few people because being involved in pre-optometry club, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing in this class? You didn't get into optometry school." I'm like, "Well, actually,
Kind of
they scraped the bottom of the pan and they found me, man."
Hey man, listen, man. They said the ones that graduate at the top work for the people that graduate at the bottom. So and it doesn't matter, man. At the end of the day, the first and the last, they're all doctors. We get in. However you get in is not how you end. You know, we just got to get in. That is
Yeah.
the goal is just to get in.
And
So
that's really the message, man. It's all about grit. Just keep trying, keep trying. There's a lot of opportunities that seem closed, but if you stay aligned and keep that grit and keep that confidence and keep fighting for what you want, you're going to be able to achieve your dreams. Maybe not in the manner you thought, and maybe not the way you want, but life will surprise you many, many times.
nice, nice, nice. So you ended up doing one at Miami University, then two at Ohio State. So you did
Yeah.
three total undergrad, and then you
Yeah.
were able to go right in. So you finished in seven.
Yep.
they're doing that. Okay, that. Now, do you think you missed out on anything with the undergrad experience, or you didn't have to pay for extra year tuition? You were still on campus, so
That's a
the
good question.
that would have graduated with you the next year, you were still on campus with them. So if you wanted to go to a party, you didn't miss a party. You just didn't have to do those classes.
That's it. That's it. So I would still first year, if I needed some time to unplug, I could go hang out with some of my undergrad friends and still
Yeah, because
connect with
they
them.
were still there. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So it was pretty seamless.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Oh, okay, I see that benefit. I didn't know about that. Okay, I'm learning something here. So as I go through your bio here, I see that you're a clinical professor as well. So is that you have fourth year externs at your current office?
Yeah, right now I just gave that up and I passed that along. So that's a part of, as you grow, you need to
Hmm.
delegate more. And so two of my associate doctors take the fourth year externs 1 day a week and rotate, but I've done that for about 15 years. And I have a contact lens resident through Ohio State that rotates through my office. And then Ohio State has me as the faculty advisor for their private practice club. So just trying to motivate more students to get involved in private practice.
So you did the externs first, and they were following you, but now
Yeah,
they're following your associate doctors, but they're
that's
still a
correct.
part of the clinic,
That's it.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Now, uh, the with the extern, because everybody's asking me to do it. My concern is currently I am hands on, and I'm doing. The patients are coming and trying to get that full experience, right? My concern with bringing on the externs is it helps when you're really busy. If you're not super busy where they're just like doing something and you're able to jump in, it would actually slow me down because then I
Yeah.
have to allow them to do their part. Then they gotta come and tell me what they thought. Then I go back in the room. Like it would slow down the day unless now if I had 6 exam lanes and I could jump back and forth. Now, do you feel like your revenue per patient changed or anything like that? Because I'm selling Neurolenses, Avalux, all the different stuff. Do you feel like it affected your connection with the patient or your revenue per patient or your capture ratio or anything like that when you added on the externs?
No, I mean, I think you're correct though. It does slow you down, especially initially. Your extern, you're going to have to train them on your systems and processes. But as they start to get it, they really help you out and make you a little more efficient. So you can do those side emails real quick while they're doing stuff. And we always present it that there's a extern physician and eye physician in training, and they're going to do the initial part of your exam, and then Dr. Ramsey would come in and really go over everything and double check the results, and maybe not necessarily do every test, just the key ones that you think would be necessary for that. So it works out great. I think a lot of patients love that you're giving back and developing. That makes you put you at a higher level with them, and you're teaching the future of our profession. But at the same time, there are patients that, no, I want to see Dr. Ramsey. I don't want to mess with this. And we go with that, and we'll just let the main doctor see that patient.
Got it. And then now, when did you bring on the residents? Like
The
how long
residents,
did that start?
the residency happened about 4 years ago. Ohio State approached me and said, we're interested in having a 1-year contact lens program. So the optometry is really interested in creating more contact lens residency opportunities because there's a lot of opportunity there. And so they said, we'd like them to rotate through your office 1 day a week to get a private practice experience. The same resident goes through an OD-MD practice and then sees patients at the university and then also teaches at the university on their own.
I think that's great because that's one thing I tell the students when they ask me about, should they do a residency? Because that's something they talk to you about first year. As soon as you get in, before you even pass your first class, they're like, you should do a residency. All the teachers, because they all did residencies. So they're all like, you should do a residency. And I tell them, I says, if you do not get any private practice experience in that residency, unless you're going to go work in the school, that doesn't work
That's
because
right.
you have to be able to sell the patient. Because
Yeah.
yes, you could be the best at vision therapy, but if the school does this for $25 and you got to charge $100 and you've never learned how to charge 100, somebody else did all the billing. When you get out, you'll never be able to do that because you have to get the customer to say yes, unless
Yeah.
you're doing it free. And I'm like, unless you learn how to get somebody to pay out of their pocket for something, it's not going to work. Even if they're doing it with insurance, whether it be, scleral lenses, How do you bill it? How do
Mhm.
you put the code in? What do you document appropriately so that when you get audited, because if you start asking insurance companies for 3 grand, you're gonna get audited because they're like,
100%.
hold on, you're asking me for 3 grand. This person is taking $140 and they're submitting the same codes because there are doctors that submit during the regular code and try to get the patient to pay the difference out of their pocket. The insurance company is going to say, you're asking me for 3 grand, prove to me that you can do that, right?
Mhm.
I'm like, you need to learn what to write, what to document, so that you can pass those audits when they come in. And if you don't get the private practice experience, I don't think it's going to work. So I'm happy that they're including that in their rotation. And it's only one day a week for you because then again, there's a lot to then fill up that resident schedule with enough specialty cases to justify that they're there, the oversight that you have to do with that. So I think that that's a really good combination of, ability for you to give back but not overwhelming. I think that's a smart thing right there that they have with our state.
Yeah, it is funny you mentioned that because the you spend all your time in optometry school just learning how to give an eye exam, to know what you're supposed to prescribe, but then when you get out you really have to develop your communication skills, and you really have to be hyper focused on your outcomes. I mean, you can refract all day if you find a half diopter change and you're telling the patient it only changed a little, you did your whole exam a complete disservice. And so
Mhm.
learning how to communicate how a patient needs to update their glasses, why they need the NeuroLens, and what benefit it is for them is super powerful. And I think my first 5 years after school, I spent a lot of time learning from people at conferences on how do I say certain things. And even to this day, I learn from you, Adam. You learn from me, we learn from each other on how do we say certain things to patients to get the outcomes that make their visual experience better. I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, you could do your whole exam, and at the end they'll get to the optical and says, "Did my prescription change?" And what you'll realize is that you dropped the ball. You did the whole
Mhm.
thing, but you did not answer the one question they had. And that's why
Yep.
when I start my exam, I ask them, "Is there one thing in particular you want me to focus on with this exam?" Because you could come in and go through your whole speech and go through your whole spinning the dial, spinning and grinning. But at the end, they're going to say, "Well, my eye itches right here every in the morning." And they'll do the whole exam and get to the optical and say, "Well, he didn't fix this." Well, did you tell him? No, but he didn't ask me and I forgot. Can I go back in? And now I'm already I'm on to the next one. I'm flowing to the next one. So,
Yeah.
making sure that you solve the problem that the patient has, and then making sure that we don't kill our own sale, because some people think it's only a quarter. I've sold so many patients glasses of minus a quarter, and to them, they're like, "I'm blind without these glasses." They're like,
Yeah.
"I cannot see." Now I'm a -5. So minus a quarter seems so little. But it's all vision is all relative thing because they don't know what -5 is. They know what minus a quarter is. And that glare, that halo, that strain, that eye strain that they get from not wearing their glasses, they
Hmm.
thought, and I'm not cheating them, I'm not overselling them. I'm solving the problem that they have.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't ask the right questions and we realize, oh, well, that might be life changing to them. It
Yeah.
might
And
seem like nothing to you.
this is a big thing in optometry. We just have to get out of our own way. I mean, let the patient make the decision for himself. Show them the benefit. Tell them the benefit. Tell them what they're going to experience through this. And if they're buying into it, they're going to update those glasses. And maybe that minus a quarter they only wear while driving, or when they're going to Miami Dolphins football games and watching the game from the sun side. Although there's no
Mhm.
sun side anymore, is there?
No, 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 no.
It's nice. I got to get down
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But yeah.
You actually want to go higher up at the get Dolphins games because they have it 75% covered. If you
Oh,
go
nice.
lower down, you're in the sun the whole time. If you
Ooh.
go midway or actually up higher, it's shaded, so it's actually better further up. And the TVs are so clear that like you find yourself like wanting the screen because it's so no matter how low you go. But okay, you got to come down. We'll go together.
Let's do it.
Where did your passion for specialty contact lenses come from? Because, there's a lot of things that we can do in optometry. There's a lot of different ways in which we can practice. There's a lot of different things that we can get involved in. When I first graduated, it was kind of like I didn't even know. I knew about the other things you could do, but when I went into optometry school, it was to be the guy in the lane spinning and grinning. Like that's what I thought I was going into. And then now we get out, and there's all these different silos that I didn't really see or understand because I didn't have a personal experience with specialty contact lenses. So I didn't think about it when I was choosing this profession. But why did you pick specialty contacts as the flag that you planted as this is going to be my thing?
I mean, first, I think every OD or every future OD needs to think about what they're most passionate about and pick that thing and develop that one niche that makes you unique from everybody else. For me, it was just, I wanted to be an optometrist just because I wanted to fit contact lenses. I didn't know about the eye disease stuff. I knew about glasses, but I was all about the contact lenses. And then I started to get exposed to patients in clinic that traditional lenses didn't meet their needs. And I was like, ooh, a challenge. Okay, I can do this. I want to make this patient's life better. How do I do that? How do I go about doing that? And so learning about all these new lens technologies and how I can build that toolbox to better meet patient needs just made me a better doctor and a better clinician. And of course, then those patients start flocking to you for those services.
So you're doing, so like I did do sclerals, but now I've started doing a lot more hybrids.
Yeah.
And it was easy. It's easier for the patient to insert and remove. It was easier for my staff to train them because when my tech was turning over, it was just taking a lot. Then I had to train the insertion removal myself, and I was like, okay, it's taking too much time. So I started going to the hybrids, and my patients have really been. They've been 20/20 hybrids, getting multifocals, and that I was struggling to do with the sclerals, the multifocals of the sclerals, and getting them to see up close was that wasn't working so well for me. But I went to the hybrid realm, and it's been great. How do you decide when you get that keratoconic patient that comes in, and you could do soft lens and give them a astigmatism lens, and they'll be 20/30, or you could put them in a hybrid, or you could go straight to the scleral. What's your differentiating factor that makes you decide which avenue to go down?
You know, it's good you're getting into the hybrids because there's a lot of practitioners that are super skilled at those lenses and know how to make them work. And I love them. They're a great tool to have. But when you see, as you know, you talked a little bit earlier about fitting $3,000 contact lenses in compliance. The vision plans have a 2-line improvement rule. And so we stick pretty hard to that. So if they're less than 2-line improvement, then they're going to get a soft toric or something that they would pay out of pocket for, get traditional benefits. But we're such a well-skilled scleral practice that once their vision goes worse than 2 lines, spectacle versus contact lens corrected, then we're jumping into the sclerals pretty quickly.
But how do you know? Okay, the patient comes in, they are 20/50 in glasses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they are 20/30 in a soft contact. You grab an ultra toric and you put it on there, and it's 20/30. But I have to order that scleral to then find out if they get 2 lines of improvement. But you're saying the insurance requires it, but
Yeah.
I don't know they're getting 2 lines of improvement until I order. What happens if you order the contact and they either don't get 2 lines of improvement? Are you charging the patient for that fitting, or are you then voiding that out, giving them the other one? Because I hate the way the insurance does it, because it's saying you have to get 2 lines, but I won't know if they're going to get 2 lines until I go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. So it's interesting, Adam. I've got a confession. I'm going to lose my KOL status from saying this. I fit thousands of scleral lenses. I've never inserted a scleral lens in a patient's eye ever.
See, that's the hard part. The insertion is not ordering it. It's getting them to get the stupid thing on their eye and get it out.
So
5 minutes.
So what we do is I decide what fitting lens I want. I hand it to my team, and they do INR with the fitting lens while I'm doing other exams. And then they do an aberrometry scan, autorefraction. They do OCT over it to see how it fits. And then I check that refraction real quick and modify the fit, and I'm done. So we're super efficient with our scleral lenses. But we've done so many, we've been able to.
How did it start though? Okay, that's good for the doctor that has, you got all these doctors, we're going to get into that. You got all these doctors, all these locations, you've built up, you can do that. But the one doc in a place in a lane with one tech, an optician, and a front desk person, they how did it start for you though? Because how did that tech, did you hire somebody that already knew it? Because the techs that already know that stuff around me, they want $30, $40 an hour.
Oh
So
man, wow.
yeah, I mean, I'm in Palm Beach. So like, are you hiring somebody that already knows that? Because how do you do the first one? Like, I get you're saying you never had to do it yourself, but who taught the tech how to do it?
hmm
Because and then how do you trust them to do it on their first one if they don't know how to do it?
So what we did was the first couple patients, obviously I was a little more hands-on in insertion removal with the fitting lens, but I didn't want to fit a lens if the patient can't get it in the first place. It's a lot of work, as you
It's a lot of
mentioned.
work.
It's just too much. It's too much. So I wanted the patient to be able to get it in. I took whoever my contact lens tech that did INR already. They know how to tell patients to hold their lids. And we work with them on how to use the tools, the DMVs, the inserters, how to fill it, what to fill it with. And they go, oh yeah, I could do this. And so they pretty much ran with it pretty quickly since they were already used to teaching patients how to put contact lenses in. And
And
then that person taught somebody else, and that person
that's what I'm
taught
saying.
somebody
Yeah.
else.
So because then the issue I've had in the past, and just always getting full disclosure, I have to be honest, is that I did all the work and trained that person, and they're good, and then I lose
Uh,
them and they leave, and it's not like
uh,
they're not training the next person. Then now I'm training, and that's the hardest thing with optometry. I would say if you could get consistent staff, anybody who tells me they've had all their staff for 10 years, I know they're rocking and rolling. Because the issue is when you lose the staff, there is so much knowledge that goes with that staffer. They know how to do this. You're like, oh, where do I find the DMVs? I don't know which cabinet it's in. Like you gotta like I haven't touched those in a while, But if not, if that person is able to train the next person, and if they leave, then that continuity is still there, then it's good. So I'm happy that you've had some continuity, you've been able to grow. That speaks volumes, and that really makes sense what you're saying about how you're able to flow is having that continuity.
Yeah, Adam, and you hit on a super key point that is a part of business success, and that is to have cross training in place. And really, we'd love to have a super tech where somebody could take somebody from pre-testing to scribe to optical, but obviously, given the staffing market today, there
hmm
there aren't people that can handle all those things right now. I
It's
mean,
so
we're paying,
specified.
yeah, we're paying
It's
so
so
much more
specific.
for less. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I think the more you do at your office, the harder it is
Yeah.
because that person has to the sales pitch for Nerlens, Avalux, sclerals, dry eye procedures, tear care, lacquer fill. The sales pitch and being able to talk that through, that takes a lot for the doctor to learn that much.
Mhm.
Imagine, and we go to the conferences on the weekend. That staff got a 1 hour lunch and learn about that. To have that sales pitch down for each one of those things becomes very difficult. Now you're talking
Mhm.
about how you're talking at the front desk. Well, this is what I like for my workup. Whenever you see this, I want you to do this kind of OCT. When you see that, you do this kind of visual field. Like to have one person that can do all of those things, unless they've been with you a long time, it gets difficult. You're gonna have to silo it down,
Mhm.
or you're gonna have to not do as many things. I've learned that. I was like, hey, Adam, you're asking a bit much. Like I got to give this person a chance to learn this, and then you can add on.
Yeah. It's funny. We did this a long time ago where we started to bring our optician into the exam room, and they could now they scribe, they run and get things. But if they just sit there and do nothing for 10, 20 minutes, if they hear everything I say to the patient, number one, they start communicating to patients the same way I do. Number
hmm
two, they hear everything that I told the patient, and our average revenue per exam went up by close to $100 every time we do that. It was consistent. It was crazy. So the handoff where you just give them the quick cliff notes, and then the patient has a detours with the staff and somehow doesn't follow through. It nips that pretty easily.
So you're leading me right into my next question. Give me a peek behind the curtain. Give me the flow of the exam. What tests are done? Because you know so we have all the toys. Are you having them do all the toys on every exam? We talk about having externs, having technicians. What give me the flow. What tests do they actually do? and when do you jump in, and then how is your process that you do? It's almost like in my mind, I have a decision tree. If they say this, then I'm going here. If they say this, if they do this, if I see this, I'm trying to get through all the different things that we have to go through with the day. But what if you went in, they came, you got them, went to the pretest. Let's start at the pretesting. What test for your annual exam? What test do you have them do on a new patient?
So, so they're going to have acuities, pressures. They're going to have wide field retinal imaging. If they're over 50, they're going to have an OCT screener. They're going to have autorefraction and aberrometry. Full history's done. Chart is pre-filled with either what the past exam was or what's normal. The history is updated. And so the patient's sitting there with all these tests, and I have all this information ready to go when I walk in the exam room.
So those are your tests that you have them do every patient, and then you come in. But now I was going to ask you about the externs, but you don't have the externs anymore. When you had the externs, were they going through and doing the refraction, and then when did you jump in? Just so that for people that are thinking about it, it'd be good to just know.
So our techs would still pre-test for them the same way, and then the student doctor would jump in as I would, do the refraction, do the eye health testing, checking all the boxes, right? And then I would come in and look at the data and see if there was anything that need rechecked. And I would always look at the health of the eye. If I'm signing that chart, I was going to check that. If the refraction data didn't make sense, which sometimes with student doctors it doesn't, we're going to recheck that. But if the aberrometer, the autorefractor, and they got -1s, I'm not rechecking that refraction.
Okay, so you would look through it. You look at the photo. You get the slit lamp out. You do that. You go through it, and then you're saying, okay, all right, we're doing this, and you're doing the handoff. Now, you said that the techs are in the room. Is the tech scribing, or was the tech scribing for the externs or only for you?
We try to get the techs to scribe for the externs, absolutely. Especially a new extern that doesn't know where things are in the EMR. It's super helpful to have a scribe in there for them.
So that the chart stays consistent, so that the stuff is in the right. Because if you got multiple people getting in there, you normally write this over here. If that changes when you go back next year, you're going to be in trouble. So okay, so you're having the tech still scribing, and then you're jumping in.
Yeah. And then the tech will put the refraction in. We'll shout it out loud, and the tech will put it in. And then sometimes we'll move the tech aside, describe, and then just start charting some things on our own, like the assessment and plan. The more experienced techs do a lot more of that for us, but some of our rookie techs aren't as astute at some of the little details.
Got it. Now, because we go to all the conferences, they can find it on LinkedIn, they find you on Instagram, etc. I know you get hit up and solicited to buy equipment. There's always the latest and greatest, and they're like, "Oh, Chris is going to be great for this. You're the best person to have this new equipment." What is your deciding factor on when you pull the trigger on a piece of equipment, and what do you look for? Like, because after you have all the toys, right? You just told me all the toys you got. You got all the toys. What makes you buy the new model? What do you look for in equipment upgrades?
So Adam, you'll appreciate this. If you come to me and want me to buy something from you, it's an automatic no and an automatic turn off. That's business 101. That's my business credence. If you have to come to me, the answer is no. So let there be alert. Please don't call me. Make me want to come to you. That's the goal. So when I go to the show, I want to come to somebody. If there's a booth pulling me in, I'm not interested. No, leave me alone. It just, you can't even walk through an exhibit hall without make it one aisle. It takes you 3 hours.
It takes you a long time.
I'm like, you guys just wasted a lot of my time, man. Just wasted a lot of my time. But I want to go there with intention. I want to learn from you. I want to learn from other KOLs. I want to learn from what the best of the best are doing. And then I'm going to kind of start tipping my toes in if I need a new OCT. Let me go look at this one, based on what I heard from Adam, based on what I heard from another colleague of ours.
Okay, so you're looking, you're getting, and so I think they undervalue what other colleagues say or what they're using. And I think sometimes if me and you do pull the trigger early, like say we do the research, we find it, right? We pull the trigger early. I don't feel like they value us getting it early enough, because
No,
then
they don't.
they turn around and say, "Well, Dr. Ramsey has it," and I'm like, "Hold on, but I paid list price. Like, don't use my name if you're going to charge me list price. I need to get an early discount if you're
Yeah.
going to charge, you know." But I think I don't think they value that enough, because I do the same thing. I need to know who else has pulled the trigger, who else has it. Like, and
Hmm.
let me go ask them. I don't believe what you're telling me. I want to ask them to be like, is it as impactful as they're selling it to be?
Yeah.
So yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it.
And you have to know your own mindset. Are you going to be a sucker and in the moment? I always don't buy anything at a show. Wait till you go home. I think that's a good rule to have. The dry eye folks, for those of you out there that are in a dry eye that are getting sucked into all these really expensive dry eye pieces of equipment. I know you're differentiating. I know you're doing a great job, but at some point, those high payments on all those devices that you're trying to chase, the latest and greatest, is really going to catch up to you. Our IPL device is an OD owned company. It is very economical, and it has had a high return on investment. And after we actually used all the devices, it worked just as well, if not better. So sometimes price isn't always the key thing on what's the best out there, for sure.
Good, 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 good. I agree that when you start talking about six figures for optometry equipment, you're gonna have to. They're like, Dr. Ramsey, you're gonna be perfect for this. I'm like,
Yeah.
really? It's like, yeah, yeah. I think you need to be the first in the country. Not at six figures. I don't. I'm taking all the risk. You know, I've learned if there's no consumable, there is no reason for the rep to come back to my office, because
Right.
they made all the money on the first sale.
Yeah.
Without a consumable, you can't get them on the phone. You can't find them. If there's a consumable, if there's a way to where they can sell the razor and the razor blade, they call you every week. They're bringing donuts. They're bringing lunch. They coming by. They're checking, right?
Yeah.
If there is no consumable, you can't find them. The only time you can hear from them is when your service contract needs to be renewed, and then they're making money on renewing the service contract.
Yeah.
But yeah, I stay away from anything without a consumable, because the
I
person
do
that
too.
it will disappear and be working for another company next week, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna take care of you." But if you're not here, I took your word. No, 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 no. So that is definitely a word of caution for any of that stuff. Those six figure stuff, we have to really prove how well, because that monthly payment is due for the full 6 years, 72 months, 60 months, whatever. And you have to keep that same energy that you love about that product for the whole time and make the revenue every single time. So I think implementation, I think, is a struggle most of these companies struggle with. Is you can sell the doctor, but most of those reps can't sell the patient on how to pay that $3,000 for that treatment follow up. So
Yeah,
now,
you made a great point, because you go to those booths and the sales rep changes. How long have you been with this company? And then the next time you go to the next show, they're with another company. I'm like, that's a red flag right there. I'm not
uh,
doing business with you at all. No, 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 no.
I don't think companies realize that we watch that and we see that, and there's something to be said for reputation. I think when I first graduated, companies would take care of you because they looked at the lifetime value of doing business with you.
Hmm.
Now they're only concerned with Q1, Q2, Q3. They're not concerned about the lifetime value, because now with these service contracts, and when you would call and a piece of equipment is broken, and let's say you had a 5 year deal and it's 5 years and one day and that equipment breaks. Oh, no, you're out of warranty. And this is where in the past they would take care of you. And then the next time I went to go buy equipment, I went back to that company. Even if everybody told me to buy this other one, I would go back to the company that looked out for me, because when I needed something, they took care of me, right? Now they don't do that. Now it's nope. You should have bought the service contract. You should have did this. You should have did that. So then when it's time to come rebuy, oh come on. I'm like, no. Remember when I called you? Remember when I needed you? No, I'm not buying that piece. But the problem is they've all gotten like that. Before we used to be able to say, well, I'm not going to do this company. I'm going to go over here. The problem is A and B, they all act the same. So we've lost that family. We've lost that connection that we used to have, because a lot of these companies used to be families. They used to be people that would work there for 20, 30 years. Now you struggle to see somebody that's been with the company more than 3, you know?
Yeah, you really hit on something that even trickles down to optometry, in that a lot of these companies used to be mom and pop and now they're corporatized. And it's just very regimented, very about the dollars. And look at private practice. And this is what we are. If our patients' glasses break at the day after their warranty, we can replace it, or we can do something for them, and we can service them and bring that care and look at the lifetime value of the patient. Whereas a corporate practice may not be able to do that as readily, because the team is not as invested in the long-term success. They have to follow rules, and we don't have to follow rules. We can make our own rules up as far as taking care of the patient, doing what's right for people, you know?
Yeah, the staff will come to me and I'll be like, hey, I'm going to allow this and I'm going to do this. I'm going to exchange this. And they're like, Dr. Ramsey. And I'm like, hey, I'm not concerned about this visit. I'm not concerned. I'm concerned about the lifetime value of that patient. I'm concerned about doing the right thing, because if I was in their shoes, this is what I would want. You know, so the staff know, don't come to me. If it's a year and a day, I'm gonna give some fudge to that. Now, 5 years later, like, these glasses broke. Okay, no, there's an end to that. But you know, I try to take care of the patient as best as possible. Now, before you do a lot of stuff outside of the exam lane, but before I get out to that, tell the viewers, and if anybody who's stuck around this long, now you get the good stuff. You got to stick around. You can't just stay.
I'm nervous.
Yeah, you can't just listen to the first 15 minutes and hit next. You got to stay to the end. You know, when did you open the first office? Because now you have multiple, and then you hired docs, you open offices along the way, you bought offices along the way. When did you open? Give us the timeline of opening the first one, and then the others that you've done along the way.
Sure. So I told you that my doctor growing up kind of broke my heart, and I had to retool. And ultimately, I turned that hardship into opportunity. And I came to optometry to work in a private practice. I am going to find one where I can be an associate, or find one that I can buy, or I am going to start one cold. One of these things is going to happen. I do want to own as soon as I can. So if I do an associateship, it's got to be something that fast tracks to ownership pretty quickly. And in Central Ohio, there was absolutely nothing except for a practice where I grew up, that the gentleman had 2 locations. One was kind of a startup in an up and coming area, and one was his long established practice. And he had been out of them for 3 years, maybe 4 years, because he went to go help TLC Laser Eye Centers open their laser centers. And so he had been asking this really high price for these practices. Everybody in the area kind of ignored it because he just was asking too much. I just gave him a call, and I must have knocked on his door at the right time, because his career with the laser center was taking off, and he was tired of doctors kind of coming in and working for a few months and then leaving in his practice. And he wanted to sell it and had it reappraised. And so that's how I came in. I was a student, 4th year student, major negative net worth, no parent to help me, just really nobody to help me other than my mom's cousin. Was an attorney that went to Notre Dame, and he had a firm help me with some of the legal aspect once we got to that point, but everything else I did on my own to get that practice. So the interesting thing was, it was a 2-location practice. One was a startup. The startup wasn't profitable. I'll just tell you, 2 practices combined were well over $1 million before I bought them. But the year before I bought them, they were down to like 425,000 combined. So they were on a crash course to failure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 2 offices, 400. That's not even paying the bills.
No, it was just at the point where there was enough if the rent was low enough. And so we actually negotiated step up rents and things like that. But I met with 3 different banks, and 2 of them told me no. And one said, I like you. I think you can do this, but here's the thing. We can only lend 80%. You got to get the other 20%. And here's how you're going to do it. You're going to ask the seller to take a note for that other 20% and subordinate the lien, meaning he's going to have the second position on the assets. And sure enough, he did it. He took a second lien, and I had deferred payments on that. And that's how I got started. Now, I would have liked to only had one practice, but my fear is these locations were about 15 minutes apart. And what he would have done if I bought
Move the
one is the
patients
patient
over.
moved the patients over. And the bank honestly wasn't interested in that for that reason anyway. So I'm like, well, let's just do both. And I worked 2.5 days at one, 2.5 days another. And then I had residents come in on Saturdays to help me out. And that's how we started.
So the residents did the moonlighting and did your Saturdays for you.
Yeah,
And then, so you did Monday through Friday, and then you had a resident at each location
on Saturday.
for you.
Yeah.
Okay. What year was that? And then when did you acquire the next ones?
So that was about 2001. It was July 2001. And
Okay.
we all remember September 11th. Patients stopped coming in from
Mhm.
about September 11th all the way to 2002. So we had a hard time. I mean, paying the bills was tough early on. It was a challenge. But all of a sudden, January of 2002 hit, and we were off to the races. We were starting to implement things and getting some growth going. But you asked about the third location.
Yeah.
The third location wasn't too long ago. It was about 10 years ago that I did it. And it was a community I was really interested in, a high growth community. A gentleman was pre-retiring, and I just kind of kept knocking on his door, sending him an email, talking to him. And I randomly kind of re-emailed him one day, and he said, I think it is time. So sometimes it's just about
Timing.
Timing is so critical. And I feel like there's a lot because these guys could sell to PE firms. These guys could have sold to another OD. So I'm always grateful for the folks that choose me to lead their practice in the future.
Now, and I like that you brought up the PE firms, because VSP put out a report that in 2024, only 5% of practices that sold in the U.S. sold to another OD. 95% of practices that sold in 2024 sold to PE.
Wow,
Not
I
just
didn't
VSP
realize it was that
Ventures,
big.
not just VSP Ventures. They're talking about all of them, including all of them together. But 95%. And the issue I have, I have no issue with PE. I have an issue with the docs that bought their offices from a doctor, that don't even give another doctor a chance to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the banks won't allow them, they did and then you sell the PE, I'm okay with that, because every business must be sold. No business lives on forever. It must either be transferred or sold. I get it. But when the docs that bought their offices from another doctor, so you had the luxury and the ability to buy from another person, and then you don't even give another person a chance. Now, if nobody can buy it, they say nobody can afford it. When they say nobody can afford it, what I hear is that you want a crazy number, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you give another doctor a chance, or you give a few doctors a chance, and it turns out none of the banks will loan, the interest rate is bad, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, and then PE comes in, I have no issue with that. But what I'm seeing is doctors are quietly asking all the PE people, signing the non-disclosures, getting all the numbers, and then just popping up and selling. And nobody even knew in the community that it was for sale. The doctor was 45, 55, maybe even 60. And the people might feel disrespectful for asking somebody at 60, hey, you willing to sell? What do you mean? You think I'm old? No. But if I don't ask you at 60, at 61, you already sold it. So when do you ask? The day before? If you ask them the day before, they feel like you're disrespectful. I'm going to work forever. At 61, all of a sudden they sold. And like, oh, they gave me a great offer. Well, you didn't even let anybody else give you an offer, you know? But I'm happy that you got that transfer, and I'm hoping that private practice optometry lives on and gives people the chance to actually do it, because 95%, when I got those stats last week, I was like, that's crazy. That doesn't seem real.
It doesn't. Wow. I mean, I don't even know what to say to that. Number one, from a buyer standpoint, I mean, you need to network in the community that you're at. You need to network with sales reps. Those contact lens reps are in every office, and they know which offices would be an opportunity to buy, partner with, or whatnot, and start just popping emails of interest. I do think the PE effect has shifted private buyer values up for the right practices, and buyers need to be able to pay. And I will tell you, I paid a mint for my last 3 practices to compete with PE to buy them, a lot more than my first one. So my concern is if I buy this and I finance part of it, am I going to still cash flow? And then once that note is paid off, and also is our initiatives going to grow that practice? If it does, it's a buy for me. So I can chase it up a little bit, but I'm also at a disadvantage in being a multi-location owner. I have to pay another doctor to work there. So my cash flow is going to be a lot harder to pay a higher number than a student that or young OD that wants to buy this practice. They can put that sweat equity in and then build it up, and they don't have to pay that OD. They have to pay themselves, and they have to have enough to live on, but they don't have that extra risk.
Yeah. And I totally hear you on that. I just think we have to find a way to make it work. We have to find a way, find the formula, because PE found the formula to make their system work, right? We have to find a way for private practice optometry to actually work. It is going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy, but I think the sellers and the buyers, you have to give them a chance. I think people are not planning far enough out. They're waiting until the day before they feel a funny feel in their chest, and they cough too bad, and all of a sudden, I need to sell tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, and then people can come in and give you an offer in 90 days. But it's going to take, if you do it the other way, it's going to take a little while. But I think the sellers need to plan further out. 50 plus, you need to have a roadmap, have something, so that you're not trying to get the practice sold in 90 days, because that's what they're doing. They're trying to sell in 90 days, 120 days, and be like, well, nobody offered me. Well, you gave them 3 months over Christmas, and now you're like, oh, well, nobody could afford it. Well, you didn't plan far enough out. That's not on, and I'm not talking about everywhere, because I know it when I post this stuff, people in rural America is going to be like, that's not true. I try. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm in Palm Beach. Okay, in Palm Beach, they said 95. That means the whole country. Okay, Palm Beach, Vegas, New York, they're still selling the private equity. So it's not. I'm not talking about rural America. I get that. That is different. That is different because that has other issues. But I just think we need to give everybody else a chance. You know
what I wonder, Adam? Of those 95% that sold to PE, how many of those doctors are happy? That's a survey I would like to see 1 year after. That's the survey I want to see. And then I'd like to see a comparative survey.
They get a lump sum, and then they have to work there 3 years. So that's why they're selling earlier, because they're like, I still got to work there. It's not like I could just go fishing on the boat to get the rest of the money. They still got to work there afterwards. And yes, that's that. Me and you just talked about staff turnover and buying equipment, and there's a lot of uncertainty. I get it. I'm not saying every day is roses in my office. I'm just saying give other doctors a chance. If it doesn't work out, sell it to whoever you got to sell it to. Same thing for my business. I'm going to try and sell it one day to another doctor. If it doesn't work out, I'm going to sell it to private equity too. I'm not saying I won't. I'm just saying give somebody else a chance.
100%.
To do it, so that you can have that community feel. Because opening cold is difficult. I did it the first time. That is difficult. So in this market, having to open cold is difficult. So, these doctors are not going that route a lot of times because the competition is very difficult, so give the chance of people to actually pass over. Now, you did a lot of stuff. You have a lot of passions outside of the office. Now you're also a VSB brand ambassador.
Yes.
What is involved in that role? Because, some people may have been asked, some people don't understand what that is. Maybe don't even know that you do that because you do so many different things. You wear so many different hats. What is involved in that role?
So obviously I read what ODs say online, and the talk about vision plans is negative, but I was kind of scratching my head and I go, yeah, there's definitely vision plans out there that we can't make work, but I'm looking at my revenue and I'm looking at the community and how I'm building my practice. And these patients have a vision plan, and then they're getting whatever they want. And so we've just learned how to build a practice that has a lot of vision plans. About 75% of our business has a vision plan, and we still have 25% that doesn't. But I'm not focused just on that 25%. I'm focused on the everything. And so I want to learn more. I want to get a little bit behind the curtain. I want to know why the market is the way it is. I just wanted to learn more, because what OD's just chumming online is like the employee that just wants a higher paycheck. That's just, well, I want more. I want more. The boss is keeping all the money, all this other stuff. So I just want to learn more. And so I became a VSP ambassador. We have colleagues that have sit in on those conversations with employers on buying the plans, and it's not really the vision plans determining the market value for us. It's these big employers that are value engineering everything that they do. If you're a car manufacturer, every little nut and bolt, you're going to find the cheapest that meets your quality standard. And so big companies like Stellantis is getting all these vision plan bids, and this one's lower. And they're saying, well, we want to use you because you have the best customer service, but we want this price. And so that's what's happening is our care is being sold to the cheapest bidder. And the vision plans are just the intermediary for it. And they're kind of stuck in the middle. And so they have certain levers they can control. So I wanted to represent the voice of private practice optometry, knowing that I know how to make vision plans a successful part of a private practice. And when you look at private practices that go well over $1 million, go to $3 million. If you look at a $6 million single location private practice, it's very few are private pay only. They're very few. They use vision plans to leverage.
Now, I got this from somebody, one of the executives, not at necessarily this company, but just in general. And they said, off the record, the issue that optometrists are having is their own fault. Because like what you just said, if you're willing to accept $40 for an eye exam, why should they pay you $50? And the other company is going to say, well, this one has 400 doctors in your area, and this one has 390 doctors in the area. But all the ones that I really want are really on the 390 list as well. So how about I pay you $35 instead of paying your $52 over here, and I can offer it cheaper to my staff. And the issue is the doctors themselves. They get mad at the person paying them 50 and saying you should pay me 75, but they're accepting 35 from somebody else. And if you stopped accepting 35, maybe you would get more money. But you're accepting lower reimbursements and then getting mad at the people that paid you more. You have to have some cojones. You have to step out and say, no, there's a line in the sand, and say, this is my minimum. And then you negotiating platform around us. You know, we had our utility company, and they accepted, my wife worked for them, and they accepted one of the vision plans that was just below the line.
Wow.
My wife worked there. And I said, no, we're not gonna do that. And had all her friends, everybody, and it took 4 years of me saying no, no, no. One day the HR manager comes in my office and comes in for an eye exam, pays cash, and at the end she says, what do we have to do to we get so many requests for our employees to come here, but you don't accept the insurance? I said, because that insurance is below the line. It is below the line. 6 months later, they switched over to an insurance company that I actually do accept. But it took 4 years.
Right? Yeah, because the contract periods, yeah.
And also, some people drop off for 6 months, they get back on because they can't hold the line long enough. You got to hold the line. You got to say, no, there is a limit. There is a minimum. And then 4 years later, now they're all on it. And all the colleagues around me are benefiting and all the other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but you took the crappy one and the better one. So you didn't do none of that. No, you had to hold the line and say, you know what? There is a minimum to what I can accept and what my self-worth is worth and what I can pay my staff, because my costs can't go up and then my reimbursement doesn't go up. It doesn't work. That math doesn't math, you know? So I tell people don't go up there.
Can I share something that will make doctors mad? It's those bottom feeder vision policies that are being sold. They have hardly any doctors on their network, but they will go to the employer and lie and say that Dr. Adam Ramsey's a provider on this plan that you're not on. you're not on. And so if the company doesn't vet that and look at that and see what's going on, that plan gets sold to that employer and you're not on the plan, but they told that employer, the person that's buying, that you were. It's crazy.
Trust and believe. And that's why when they call and they're like, oh, we have you listed. You don't have me listed. Oh, it's right here. And I'll go and look and they'll have my name. And I'm like, I don't accept that plan. No. No, I accept the medical. You're looking on the medical search for me and you're finding me on the medical one. And then I said, no, I do not accept the other. But it takes a while. It does take a while. You got to hold the line a little bit longer. Now,
one more comment on vision plans, though, I want to hit in, though. ODs are interested when it comes to vision plans. We want pay parity. We want to be paid what the medical insurance pays. That's our value. That's what we're looking for. And so I think we're hyper focused on individual vision plans. We're hyper focused on this, but what we really want to focus on is coordination of benefits, allowing us to utilize medical and vision for those patients. And that's how we get our pay parity. And if a vision plan is not offering coordination of benefits for their enrollees, their coveries, they're not doing those patients a service. You're not allowing the OD to provide that holistic care that patient needs. And so we need to be fighting for coordination of benefits with all these vision plans.
I agree. Now, you write articles, you do podcasts, you do lectures, presentations, you speak for companies. Which medium do you actually enjoy the most? Because you may get requested to do one, but if it was your choice, when you connect with your colleagues, which one would be your medium of choice connecting with the colleagues?
100% in person. You have to go to a conference. You have to go to a meeting. You have to engage other people. That groupthink that happens, that real life dynamic on even if I'm giving a presentation and Adam, we both give contact lens presentations, I'm going to learn something from somebody in that group just as much as I'm going to teach things. And when you get everybody working together to try to make the patient experience better, it just becomes a great thing.
Now, I agree with the in-person. Do you like to speak with slides that a company made, or do you like making your own lectures? Because when the company is giving you the list and giving you got to say certain things, you can't say certain other things. Would you prefer in-person? Okay, you just told me you like in-person, you like doing that. Okay, but I can in-person speak for this company and use their slides, or I can in-person create my own CE content and deliver that content. Which one do you prefer the most?
It depends on the company slides. The advantage of doing company slides is the work is done for you and you can put your flavor on it. And you and I have sat and given company slides. And what's cool is all our colleagues that do that, they're given the same slides, but the presentation is entirely different.
Totally different.
Each colleague, totally different. And so it's so cool to see that dynamic happen. The nice thing about doing your own slides is you really get to put your flavor and make your own talking points and hit home on the messages that you want. And that's great, but you do have to put in the work. So if you do your own slides as a KOL, you really need to be doing that same presentation 10 times, because to do one-off lecture for one event is a lot of work, a lot of time. So it's hard to get that time back.
I agree. What they pay us to create the CE lecture doesn't make sense. I'm like, I can't miss work for a whole day to get that. Like it doesn't, and not even that, the time it takes to create the slide content, because that's the hardest part, is creating unique content. We're talking about similar concepts, so how do you make it unique? I mean, that's definitely it has to be an internal passion for you.
Now, Adam, I saw you were giving away free eye exams to students in need. And so I was enamored by that. I thought that was the greatest thing ever. So, being in Palm Beach, you're in this high-end area, but yet you're still focused on giving back to your community, and kudos to you for that. When I'm very selective with my speaking on my own slides. And for me, it's my charity and my giving back to the profession. And that's how I look at it. And so is this something I'm going to be passionate about, something I'm going to give back to my colleagues that have taught me so much? And am I going to be able to give them something that will help them? And I say yes to those opportunities.
That's a good way to think about it. Thank you. I didn't think about it like that. Yeah, and I do that, give back to this, because the kids, is not their fault. If they grew up in a family that couldn't afford eyewear, it's not their fault. And I used to do it even for adults. If you needed it, they weren't getting Gucci or anything like that, but I would give them something. But then adults started taking advantage, and I would see them out and about, and they got a new iPhone, and you're asking me to give you free glasses. Oh, that doesn't.
Yeah, no.
It's not their fault. But I have kids that come for 10 years in a row, get their eye exam, get their glasses, and then I have a few that got free rides in optometry school, and a couple that got free rides in undergrad, doing the scholarships, doing all the work, and I literally work with them every year and got them in, and then now one just graduated this year and is an optometrist as of this fall coming up here, and that's been a passion project. But I see what you're talking about with the giving back. I didn't look at it like that because I always looked at it like, I feel like your value isn't like what you're paying me tells me what you're worth. It's kind of the same thing with an eye exam. If you accept $1 for an eye exam, then you feel like you're worth $1. So when they pay you a certain amount to do a CE lecture, I feel like they're telling you what your time is worth. So but I get what you're saying. It's not about that part. So it's a different way to think about the same thing. So, okay. I like that. Okay, we're going to be wrapping up pretty quick here. When you work with a lot of companies, how do you decide who to work with? Because, everybody wants Chris Smiley. Everybody's coming over to you. You're the man in Central Ohio. So they're coming to your office first. When they come to me, they ask me, "Oh, can you meet for this time?" I say, "Oh, I can meet you for lunch." They say, "Oh, no, we already have one scheduled with so and so for lunch." I said, "Well, I can't meet with you at all because you booked them before you booked me. If you thought you're gonna come to Palm Beach and book them before you book me, I don't want to meet with you."
Yeah.
Because you just told me the hierarchy. Because before you book the flight, you book that doctor.
Yeah.
I don't like to be second. I don't. That's I'm going to my therapy. I'm working on me. I feel like that's disrespectful. So now you know what? They learn. A couple months later, they call and they ask, "Hey, what day are you available? I'm booking yours first." I said, "Now, because if you want to sit down and give me a $40 lunch, and they want me to spend 140 grand, I need to feel special. I don't feel special when you do it the other way." But how do you decide on who you work with? How do you decide on the companies that gets you to represent their brands?
This is one of the things I love. Adam Ramsey wears his heart on his sleeve. What you see is what you get. He tells it how it is. And those are my favorite people in the world. Why you're one of my favorite people in optometry in the world is because you just say how it is. For me, in selecting companies to do consulting work for, I could consult for all of them. Many of us have opportunities. Paul Karpecki's in a category of his own. It's just different.
There's him, and then there's everybody else.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But we have opportunities to work that way, but we would have to prioritize that in our life. And for me, prioritizing, I want to align with companies that share my vision and the way I want to practice. And so if I'm passionate about your product, passionate about your lens, passionate about your pharma product, I'm very happy to share that with the optometry world because I need to be authentic. I can't be shilling for companies that I have no passion for. And so that's what I do to decide.
Okay. Now, do you like to travel? Is travel in your is one of your passion projects or your homebody?
Yeah, I like to travel, but my passport expired during COVID, so I need to get it renewed because I'm ready for some Europe.
Okay, you don't like to travel. Okay, if it's been,
I like to travel though.
No. You don't like to travel.
See, he's calling me out.
No. Your passport is expired. COVID, and you haven't renewed it. You don't like to travel. Okay, that's fine. There's a lot of places within the U.S. you can go. You can visit. You can go to Hawaii. You can get.
But I'm ready, Adam. I'm ready to go. Let's go overseas.
To say you like to travel, your passport has to. Within a year of it expiring. That we're talking about that. Okay, you don't like to travel. It's okay. Your homebody, or you like to fly within the U.S. Okay, that's fine. All right, I like to learn about people. All right, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Because you've accomplished a lot in your career. You hit some markers that you may have set out for yourself. I want to do this. I want to do that. I get here. I'm doing this. What does 10 years from now look like when you look back at 2035? What do you say? Where do you want to be? What's that marker?
So I think when you transition from one or two practices to multiple locations, you're transitioning from making the practice about you to making it about your vision and everybody else driving that vision. And so there's a big level of leadership that comes into play is I can't be in the weeds doing everything, but I've got to empower other people to do it for me and give them the road, the runway to go with it. So from a practice standpoint, I've always wanted to have one practice in every major suburb of Central Ohio and just be a Central Ohio entity. I think my timeline is going to play out that that's the maximum that would be possible. I have a daughter that's starting optometry school this fall, and you got to meet her at the NOA. So we're pretty excited about bringing in the next generation. Interesting story. She was supposed to go to Berkeley for this medical program where they teach them all these medical professions. They get in the hospitals and do all this stuff, but it got canceled. So she went to Children's Hospital, got to do a program here in Columbus, went into OR for open heart surgery for the child and passed out, hit her head. And the next day she started asking me a lot of questions about optometry. So that's how it all came about.
You just got to shake it. You had to just shake it up in there. You shook it up in there, and all of a sudden it was like, wake up, optometry.
Yeah. So I'm hyper focused on her and her success and watching her as a parent, follow in some of the footsteps that I took, and I'm interested to see how she grows. She's a better person to me in many different ways, and that's really, as a parent, what your goal is to have kids that are a better version of you. And so watching her grow is great. Long term with the practice, I agree with you what you said earlier. I'd love to have a handful of doctors by my practice and keep it locally owned. And so that's probably a likely scenario that will play out. But we'll continue to work and look at those opportunities.
I'm a very introspective kind of person, and I read and study a lot of things. And when I see docs, when their kids want to get into the profession, the commonality that I have found, which I was trying to figure out where it is, because I see some docs that are super successful and then their kids nowhere near. And or even I have people that I know that are judges and mayors and city councilmen, lawyers and everything. And then their kids don't end up that way or don't follow in their footsteps, have this big lawyer practice, and their kids don't even go to law school, don't even attempt, barely graduate high school and college, right? And what I've found is the ones that kids follow in their footsteps, you made the profession seem fun. Mm-hmm. Because if you come home and all you can talk about is complain, the kid can only connect the complaints because you didn't talk about the good parts of the day. You're talking about, oh, I got this bad review, I got this audit, oh, I got this, I got that, rah, 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 rah. That doesn't seem fun. Why would I want to connect and engage with that? Or if the profession takes the parent away so much that I don't get to see, then I don't see the profession as something positive. Because now you're working 6 days a week or you're always gone, then they see the profession as a negative thing, not a positive thing. But when I see people like you that kept the main thing, and your daughter was able to see the positive and the good and see the blessings from that, but the blessings didn't overshadow the actual profession. That's when I see people where their kids follow in their footsteps. And the other ones, they were super successful, but the kids saw that as that took my dad away. That wasn't a good thing. Or they were complaining and woe is me and all the time. Like, I'm like, stop with that. It's why sometimes I stay away from those online platforms. I don't even follow. I don't even post or do anything.
Misery loves company. I agree.
I need positivity around me. That's why I keep friends like you around, because I need somebody that's doing well, succeeding. Yes, every day is not great, but we can't be talking about that. Okay, all right, enough of it. Okay, but we gotta go through. So I love that your passion is coming through, and your daughter saw that and has seen the positive and come right behind you. So you got a built-in succession plan, which is good. So hopefully it will be passed down, because you got to think how many of these practices were not passed down. These big, beautiful ones. These big name people that you could think of right now. We're not going to.
And we know,
And it did not get passed down. Either they didn't have a kid go into the profession, or those kids did not buy that practice. But they got it from somebody else. But you have the ability, you have the opportunity. 4 years from now, we'll see, and then give her a couple of years. So 10 years from now, maybe let her do the hard work.
I'll be fishing in Palm Beach with you, Adam.
now we're talking. All right. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about or mention? Anything else about that I didn't? I tried to do a little backstory without asking you too many things before we got on here. Is there anything else you wanted to say, or for people to get to know you? They know a lot now. If you stayed this long, you actually like them. If you stayed this long, you like the conversation. You learned a little bit. There's a little more juicy things towards the end. But is there anything you wanted to say?
Gosh, we covered so many different topics. I would say get out of the hole. The online CE is great. Spend a little money. Go to an in-person event. Go to the Academy meeting. Go to SECO. Go to AOA. Go to Vision Expo. Go to one of these nice big meetings and network with peers, because that's where your positivity is going to come from each other, and trying to better ourselves, to our patient care, to our families, however we can continue to better ourselves. You're not going to get that on a computer online every day. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So network, come say hi to me at a conference, come say hi to Adam. We'd love to meet you all. And thanks for listening.
Great. And if anybody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way, avenue? Either a company or another doctor, they want to get a hold of you. How would they do that?
I think email is great. So just csmileyod@gmail.com is a great way to email me, and feel free to reach out. I'm glad to help you. I help a lot of doctors buy practices. So if you need some help looking at financials or just understanding the metrics, but if you're interested in buying a practice, the best way to start is to just start looking and start, and don't feel like you have to know everything right up front.
Great. Thanks so much. I definitely appreciate it. We'll talk soon. All right.
Absolutely. Thanks, Adam.
Okay. Now that was a wonderful conversation. Thanks for sticking around here. What I would love is if you guys would support this podcast, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, tell Dr. Chris Smiley that how much you love the conversation that we had. That would mean a lot to me. And if you're interested in private practice, get the book. Play Chess Not Checkers, The Practical Guide to Warm Start Your Dream Optometric Practice. You can get it on Amazon. Get the book for yourself. It gives you the building blocks of opening up your own business. Now, my tip the hat moment today is going to go to private practice optometry as a whole. We had a whole conversation, and I want to give a shout out to all the docs that are in the grind, that are in the hustle, that are doing it. You can do it. It is going to work out, but stay connected. Stay with other doctors that are that are doing this, and get the ideas. Lean on one another. Every day isn't going to be perfect, but we're doing a wonderful thing. We have a blessing to be in a great profession. So I tip my hat. Private practice optometrists, those that are in it, those that want to get in it, ask us, talk about it. It is possible. It is doing it. Love you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you learned something today that you can take back to your business, take back to your practice, and change the lives of your patients today. Now, if you love what you heard and love what you saw, download, share, like, and subscribe. Tell a friend about the Play Chess Not Checkers, the podcast.